Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky.
And I am Leah.
And we are joined, actually for the next two episodes, we will be joined by podcast contributor Heather. Hi Heather.
Hello ladies.
That might have been news to Heather. I talked her into this episode, but she also is coming back next week, so.
No, that's because we love Heather and it's always fun to have her.
Well,
and Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
It's our first record. Now, this is not dropping on the new year, but it's our first recording of the new year. So it's exciting for us.
Well, and part of this being New Year, in our first reading challenge of the year at Buzzing About Romance is always the New to You Author Challenge.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the episode. So you're going to want to stick around and find out about that. But on this episode of Buzzing About Romance, we are going to focus on some tips and tricks to finding new authors or new books to read, but also ways that we can do it affordably and legally. This coincides with our first reading challenge of 2022, but also it's a new year. It's time to build those TBRs so that at the end of the year, we can all clear them together.
Yeah, because that's what we do. We clear TBRs.
Isn't that what we do?
No, we add like thousands of books to everyone's TBR.
And if you have seen our recent social media posts, we recommended over 700 books this year.
700 unique titles in 2022.
Yes. So there are 700 unique titles that many of you probably put onto your TBR. And you know what we say to that? You're welcome. Yeah. So buckle up because actually this year we're doing all the things a little bit different and we're going to be doing a lot more book recs. So
yeah. So, and we haven't really talked about this yet on the podcast, but author spotlights are going to move to a couple times a month over in quick shot form. So they're going to be 20-minute features with authors that will give you insight to their latest release or a new project they're working on. And then we're going to save Sundays for more industry insiders, some
it's all
trope talks,
all
book
the
recs,
books all the time on Sundays.
Lists. We have community reads like coming up in February. We are asking you, the Buzzing About Romance community, to help us pick the top 10 small towns of romance. So you are going to want to make sure, if you are not following us on social media, if you are not checking out our blog every couple of days, you should be checking that out because we'll be looking for nominations here in a couple weeks.
Now, some of these things could be changing because Becky and I are not always known to stay to our schedule and how we plan things.
Small Towns is staying because I have it in the schedule. We are not changing. It's the only episode we have planned for February. Okay. That and the audiobook episode.
I digress. Becky has spoken.
Those are the only two we have planned
but the audio one we've already scheduled.
Right.
Like we have that scheduled on the calendar and our special guest is scheduled it on the calendar.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, we can't change these two because I can only write so many episodes a month. Okay.
Anyway, on to how you find new to you authors.
So one of the easiest ways. So Heather, tell us as a reader, and you know, you read probably what, 50% just whatever, but then 50% arcs from favorite authors?
I feel like I have taken on less arcs this year than before. So it kind of depends on the month. Like December was pretty low. And January, I think I only have 3. But it's very funny because people like in my real life are readers and they are always asking me like, what book do I read? How did you figure out like what to read? So
tell us, how do you find a new author? For you, the reader, Heather, or how do you tell your friends? How do you help them find new authors? What are some of the first questions you ask?
So I didn't even know Bookstagram was a thing like 3 years ago. And so I just started following hashtags on Instagram, which I know sounds really ridiculous. So I'm like, oh, I love a small town romance. So I like follow that hashtag. I am in a lot of reader groups on Facebook. So whether it's the authors or if it's like I'm in a really awesome, it's like an MM romance group and they give like hundreds of recommendations. So I would say that, or pick a couple, if you like an Instagrammer, or yeah, if you find a bookstagrammer you really like and they recommend one book and you liked it, then go look at all the other kind of books that they read.
Yeah. It's really easy. One of the first things I'll ask is, so tell me your favorite read. What's the last best book you read? And a lot of times that will help me understand, one, how much spice are they looking for?
Yep.
Two, are they going to be someone that kind of is looking for more trad pub, mass market styled books? Is this somebody that's willing to take a chance? You kind of can gauge based on maybe what their previous favorite book was, where to lead them down the road. Because, we have found over the last couple years, high spice isn't for everybody. Medium spice isn't for everybody, and slow burns can make people ragey. So,
but also too, like spice level is also perspective, like what we think is a really spicy
but
book.
if they've only ever read like Susan Mallory, or Nora Roberts, I am not going to recommend Praise by Sarah Kate.
The other thing that I have found,
unless they request like an outside the box type of thing.
Right. The other thing that I have found is like a lot of my friends are like, they have not made the switch to e-readers. They're like the traditionalists where they like the physical book.
I used to be one of those crazies.
Right. So they want a book, like I have recommended some romantic suspense. And so they get the paperback. And I'm just like, and they bend it and read it.
Who does that?
Those psychos.
But they like that, they like to, my mom is that way. My mom will not switch to an e-reader. She still reads physical books.
I think that there's a difference too, and that's something we often talk about, but if you are reading in the Kindle app on an iPad, or if you're reading on a Kindle Fire, that's a blue lit full color device, that is a very different reading experience versus an actual e-reader with what they call the e-ink setup on it. So,
go
ahead.
Also, buying books on Amazon to load to your Kindle is not user friendly. And I understand why Kindle does that. But as a novice who doesn't read 300 books a year, they don't understand that.
You can't on any device purchase books, like not on Android, not on Kindle, or not on Apple. Can you purchase those books through the apps?
Yeah,
you have to leave the app
through the site.
However, if you have a Kindle, you can purchase books through your Kindle. And you can also borrow books from Kindle Unlimited through your actual Kindle. So
yes. And so that's one, like I have walked people through the Kindle app a lot. Like a lot of my colleagues, they want to read. There's actually a lot of professional books in Kindle Unlimited. So I've walked people through how to use it.
So a couple of things too is, like Heather said, she followed the small town romance hashtag. But that's a trope. So you can use things like Google and Google small town romance book recs.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like it'll come up and it'll take you to some random person's Goodreads shelf, or even like a Goodreads shelf itself. And so it'll give you not always the most reliable list.
Well, the way the list is curated, if you get like a full shelf, it is anybody that has used those terms to shelve a book. Yeah. So if you follow Leah or I or Heather on Goodreads, we have shelves. So we try to categorize books by tropes on our shelves. So if we have a book that we've categorized as small town, when you Google small town and go over into Goodreads, it will show you anybody who has shelved any book as a small town romance.
Yeah.
It can get tricky, and you sometimes have to use different word combinations to get all the recs.
Mhm.
I have had to do that when we did the foodie episode.
Yeah.
That's
You had
a
to get real specific.
That's a term we made up. So we had, I had to look for romance books in a restaurant, romance books with a chef, romance books with a bartender,
Romance books with a
romance.
bakery. Like you
Yeah.
have to get specific with those ones. And that's something too, like if you are looking for something specific and you can just Google search those and it'll take you places. Um, Sometimes they're not the most accurate, but it gives you a starting point for at least to find an author. And honestly, if you find an author in one of those lists who's like listed as small town, people might list them as small town because they're an author that writes small towns in other books.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another great place to start with is friends and community.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like Heather said, if you follow a Bookstagrammer or a TikToker and you are liking that post, go back, look what else they did. But also, it is okay to slide into their DMs and be like, hey,
Yes.
I really liked your video on this. I really liked this book. What else would you recommend? So, a couple months ago, I had someone DM me over on TikTok. She's like, I love that you did strong heroine video, but do you have any shy and nerdy book recs? And I'm like, let me help you
Yes.
out, sister.
Yes. Yes, we do. We have
So
all the books.
so it's okay. Bookstagrammers want you to comment on their stuff and say, hey, I liked this book too. What else should I read? Or
Mhm.
send them a DM. That's why we're doing it. That's why we spend hours making pictures and videos, so that you can find books that you will love as much as we do.
Mhm. Well, and one thing you can do too is just go to Amazon, and if you're looking at an author's page along I'm using my hands, but none of you can see me, but along the left-hand side, like under the author's bio, there's always a list of similar authors who write stories that are like, if it's an author that writes a really angsty story, like they'll give you a small list of other angsty authors. If it's a rom-com author, they'll give you the list of other rom-com authors. Sometimes it like there's authors in there say they've co-written with somebody. So like the co-written book is different than their individual book. They'll still be in there, but it's a good starting off point.
You also get that in Libby and Hoopla, which we'll get to talk to in a minute.
Yep.
Those are very US centric devices or apps and programs. But they have similar where it'll say, people who checked this book out also checked out these books. Or Hoopla is the best place because you can, at the bottom, after you get past the blurb, it'll show you all authors that write similarly. And you can just click on them. It'll also show you the narrators so that if you're in love with like Maxine Mitchell, like I am, I can click on her name and it shows me all the books
All
in
the
Hoopla
books.
that she has narrated. So,
Well, and there are some people who like have found new authors based on narrators, like because they love those narrators, and so they're going to listen to everything that like narrator does, and so they'll discover new books and new authors based on that.
yep, for sure.
I have.
So I don't know if everybody knows this, but Amazon, if you go onto Amazon.com and you go into Kindle books, you can click bestsellers, and it'll show you the current Amazon top 100. There is a tab that is the top 100 free books too. So you can click over to that book, into that list, and free books, free first in series, free giveaway books, promotion type stuff is a great way to find new authors. That is honestly how I found my book of the week author this week. She initially had a book that the series was free first in series, ends up it's in Kindle Unlimited, but I downloaded the free book and then I read it.
I've found a few authors that way because
Yep.
like I like a free book, and so I'll download them, and then I find that those authors have pretty big backlists, and so I rabbit hole deep.
Well, I know that
Yep.
when I recommended Jacinda Wilder, The Bad Brothers, everybody was like, book one is free in Kindle. Like, let's grab it. And they grabbed it. And then the hate messages because it's a 14 or 18 book series that I got afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but that series is currently in
It is now in KU.
So
all the bads.
Jack and Jacinda at one point did do like a huge chunk of them for free. So a lot of people probably snagged all of the ones that were free. And that's something too, like you will find authors if you join an author, if you follow them on Instagram or if you are part of their newsletter, like I know Melissa Foster does it, Carrie Ann Ryan does it, they'll do a random free book in a series. Like they'll rotate what books are free or on sale.
So let's talk about newsletters, because not only authors' newsletters will they have free, but there's groups of newsletters. So, I mean, I know it can be, some authors overdo newsletters.
Yes, it can be daunting.
But it's worth clicking in and scrolling down to see who's free.
Well, and honestly, like if you get the newsletters, a lot of times authors have other authors' books at the bottom of their newsletter for free. Because Catherine Cowell, actually, I think it was Catherine's newsletter. She sent one out in the past week, and there were 3 or 4 free books at the bottom. They were BookFunnel links. So you can read through the BookFunnel app or send them to your Kindle. But they were absolutely free books from author friends that she has. And I'd say 8 out of 10 newsletters I get every week have at least one free book on them.
So Vanessa, I have not checked my email in a couple of days. I've checked out of life. And same. I was reading through, and like Vanessa Vale, she had 15 books, free books on the bottom of her newsletter this week from various authors, and then 3 audiobooks.
Oh, really?
So like Janie Crouch was one of them. And I read her, I love her. So one of her books was listed as free, and it was, sent it over. Also, I am a person who I feel like I'm good with technology, and then sometimes it like trips me up. So the BookFunnel can feel very overwhelming, and you have to like figure out how to do your Kindle. So I'm going to throw Becky under the bus, but if you need help figuring out BookFunnel and getting it to your Kindle, message Becky because she will help you.
I will help you. And I
honestly,
will do a screen video to help you see how to.
First time that's the hardest. But if you download the BookFunnel app and send it to your Kindle that way, it is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, but it can still be kind of confusing for people on how to do it.
Yeah. I will 100% agree with that.
But we will give you a video and walk you through it, because so the other people that use BookFunnel there are these newsletter book clubs.
Yeah.
And Sawyer Bennett just shared one this week in her newsletter that each month you will get a free book from, and that list of authors, and it's different authors. That list of authors, I was like, wow, this is like Vi Keelan, Catherine Cowell was in those.
Well, and there's different ones for different types. Like that one is like
years ago, Heather made me sign up for a BDSM one, and I have like this amazing collection.
There's a suspense one. There are different suspense books. I was part of like a billionaire one this year. There was a rom-com one. So you just have to, honestly, you kind of have to troll people's thing, like Instagram or Facebook pages, like for authors a little bit. You have to do a little bit of stalking.
You do, but I know that like Avery Flynn was in one, and she shared it. Sawyer shared one on her Instagram and in her Facebook group. But honestly, author Facebook groups, or if you're like, so Sawyer shared one in her group. If you're in that group, pop in there and ask a question. Hey, I saw that book club newsletter. I signed up for it. Are there any others that I should be signing up for? Because apparently Heather does not remember the BDSM one.
No, I have it. I downloaded my January book already.
And that's the thing too. Like if you are part of a group, like a reader group on Facebook, ask the questions. Like ask anybody there, especially if you're just a random reader group. Like I'm in a couple just random groups, and people are constantly asking for book recs. And like, I'm in the mood for this. What book could I be reading right now? What author should I read? I've read this author and this author. Who should I be reading next?
Another great resource is BookBub. I don't feel like we talk about BookBub
We don't, but we
enough.
should, because BookBub's amazing.
BookBub, you tons of free books. You go in and you pick the books you're interested in or the types of authors or tropes you're interested in. They send you an email.
They do. And actually, if you like an audiobook too, BookBub is partnered with Chirp. And so you will get the Chirp deals also that way.
Okay. So we've done that. BookBub.
The Stuff Your Kindle.
Stuff Your Kindle days.
I had a friend who is a reader, but she's kind of busy mom of young kids. So I sent her the Stuff Your Kindle day, and she was like, "Oh my God," I sat on my couch and loaded my Kindle for like 3 hours. And I was like, yeah.
So they do that 2 to 3 times a year. Authors come together, they break them down into subgenres, then into tropes. And sometimes it's books that are already perma-free that they're just re-bringing your attention to. But if you follow us on social media, if you are part of our Discord, we will absolutely remind you when Stuff Your Kindle Day is there.
And if you are on our Discord channel, we do book deals in there every single day. Like if Becky and I come across a book deal, or actually if any of the community comes across a book deal, we have a book deals channel that we dump things in.
We do.
So my friend that just got into reading, she and I started doing this too. For Amazon, if you don't need your packages right away, you can, kind of click that button. So then you get credit towards like an E or like for books or whatever. So that's another way.
Well, and also too, if you follow authors on Amazon, every once in a while, like you'll get emails about whether or not they have a book on sale too.
That's why we often talk about during happy hours, like make sure you follow the author on Amazon. It not only helps them, but it helps you to know when pre-orders, releases, and frees are happening. So this is going to be very Canada and US centric, but I wanted to take a couple minutes before we start talking about Kindle Unlimited to talk about Libby and Hoopla. So these are programs that are through libraries in the US and Canada. Now, if you are in the US, it is great because I think it's something like 65% of the ebooks that are available in Libby can be sent to your Kindle. Now, they will not remain there forever. They are a timed file, and so you will only get them for how many days you checked them out for. The other piece of that is, too, if you use a different kind of reading device, you then end up having to read either on your phone or on a tablet. Libby, one of the problems with Libby can be your area.
Yes.
No two libraries are the same.
Yes, we have discovered this.
And many people will say that there is no such thing as a book desert, but there are. There are book deserts because there are a lot of underfunded communities that do, and especially recently with libraries kind of being under attack and book banning making its resurgence, libraries are losing money. And one of the first things that's going to go are purchasing digital titles and such.
Well, and some of it just comes to the area because I live in a small town in Pennsylvania, like very small. Like my library system is not that big. Like our romance section is very small. Becky, like she specifically lives in a small town, but her library system is not that small, and they have a huge number of romance options because we pulled the numbers out of curiosity once. And I think my library system had 8,000 total,
and I had over
books,
60,
and you had like 65,000.
So there are some libraries within the US that will allow you to buy an annual library card, and it gives you access to their digital catalogs, not only on Libby, but also on the app Hoopla. Hoopla is another great app. It's great for audiobooks. The only problem with reading ebooks from Hoopla is you have to read them through the app. You can't download them to your Kindle. So if you're triggered by blue light, it can.
So with that though, like I bought a blue light blocking screen cover for my phone because I was in that boat. And and that helped. I utilize Libby. I live in a very metropolitan, I live in Minneapolis, and our library system is pretty amazing, but our romance selection is about 62,000 books, which is less than Becky's.
Yeah.
So, they're not all created equal. And the other piece, if you want to check out books from the library, your librarians at the libraries are very helpful, and they will 100% help you figure out how to navigate, because they're just like us. They want you to read.
They do. So we're going to spend 10 minutes on Kindle Unlimited because we could talk about Kindle Unlimited. So a couple things to know about Kindle Unlimited. If you find a book in Kindle Unlimited, this number is a little different now, but I would say about 80% of the titles are going to be exclusive and only available in Kindle Unlimited. That other 20% comes into play with it being a TradPub book that have put
loopholes,
a special deal into the program.
So I explain Kindle Unlimited to people that are not familiar. It's a little bit like Netflix, where they have a lot of selection, but they don't have like everything. So honestly, it saved me. I would not be able to read the amount of books I do if I did not have Kindle Unlimited.
No, I would not either. And I did not get the email from Amazon to tell me how much money I saved with my Kindle Unlimited subscription, and I'm still a little bit salty about it.
My God, this was like days ago. Kindle Unlimited, though, if you are new to it, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're coming from a TradPub background. And when I say a TradPub, I'm talking about books that you have purchased easily, readily at your local Target, at your Walmart, at your Costco, even at Barnes and Nobles. Those are 99% books that are coming out of the large publishing companies. If your only foray into reading romance is because Reese Witherspoon Book Club,
that's a TradPub book.
That's a TradPub book. Those are books that are being put out by the big publishing houses. I would say Kindle Unlimited is twofold. There is the Montlake title, and there's a couple other Amazon-owned publishers that are in there. Yep. But I would say probably 90, well, no, because we still have that TradPub now.
I'd say 75%.
75% of the books that are in Kindle Unlimited are indie published, meaning those are self-published books.
Yep.
And so these books are going to not necessarily fit like the TradPub formula. So you just have to read blurbs. If you're not typically a review reader, I'm not a blurb reader. If you're not typically a review reader, if you're just trying Kindle Unlimited, and there is a free 14-day trial that you can click through on our website with. But it, go ahead.
Kindle Unlimited can be very daunting too, because there's a lot of books in KU, and sometimes it's hard to find a book that works for you. It has gotten better in the past few years. I've had Kindle Unlimited for, I don't know, a long freaking time now. And when it first came out, like the selection, excuse me, the selections were more suspect at times. Just say that. But the author options have gotten much more varied, much more prolific.
Agree.
You can find some amazing authors who are strictly KU.
Well, and there's been a lot of popular books that have, we talked about this in our hot takes episode. There's been some really popular KU books that are now in trad distribution that you're seeing everywhere. So KU can be a little daunting, but if you have questions about where to start with KU, again, slide into any of our DMs and ask, and we will, because Leah likes it.
I think one of the things that I never did when I first started reading KU, and I would encourage people to do this, is if you don't like a book, you don't have to finish it.
No.
it's okay to say this book isn't for me, because it doesn't mean it's not for somebody else. It's just not your jam. And that's okay.
Yep. And the author gets paid in KU.
Yep.
We get questions about this a lot. If you borrow a book from KU, the author gets paid for the amount of pages that you read. So even if you decide this is not for me at 30%, they got paid for those first 100 pages. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yep.
It's better than struggling through a book that you didn't love, because we don't want anyone to do that.
And Kindle Unlimited has a lot of things that aren't, so there's magazines, there's
Newspapers.
My
Comics.
teenager loves there. He has found a couple series on Kindle Unlimited that he really loves, that he reads, and then he takes up. So that's the other piece with Kindle Unlimited. You
takes up
can
one of your
check.
20.
Yep, he takes up one of my 20. You can check out 20 books at a time, which when I tell people that I only get 20, they're like, what do you mean only 20? I'm like, when I find another book, it's like, you know, you got to figure out which one you're okay with giving. It's just this.
It's a
odd thing
feeling
that-
like when you have to give a book back. But I will say, I currently only have 7 books checked out on Kindle Unlimited, and 2 of them are the girl childs. So,
Oh, I'm looking to see how
What?
many I have currently.
well,
I
okay,
only
so
have 14.
I really worked on clearing my TBR and reading books that I already owned and not adding new books to my Kindle.
Yeah, but I've had like a couple of my books in my KU for like a month and a half because
I've had
like I
some longer.
downloaded them and like borrowed them. Well, I had to cycle through because I ran out of space, and so I got rid of the older ones before the newer ones.
Screenshots are another good way to keep track of books too, for those people. Like,
Is it though? Because then I have like
Yes.
a bajillion
it
screenshots.
is.
Mhm.
But I will say the Tiki Talk is not always the best for Rex because you have to search for the book name.
Okay, we
So-
aren't festiving. You have to move on from that.
I'm just festiving that little like tidbit.
So I do want to note we have an upcoming episode all about audiobooks and how to find them and ways to do it on a budget. Katie
Mhm.
Robinson from Lyric Audiobooks will be joining us for that episode. Look for that the first week in February. Okay, so here we go.
I want to say one thing about Kindle Unlimited. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
That's
No,
fine.
go ahead.
You during Prime Day, they will always have a deal on Kindle Unlimited for like the year, and Becky will always post the link. So that's a really great way to like buy the whole year, and it ends up being cheaper than the $10 a month.
Well, and there's also Prime Reading, which if you have Amazon Prime, 1 book a month. Well, and it's in
Well, it
every
depends,
category.
'cause January it's 2 books. You get 2 books in January.
And you
this
get them
year.
for free. And sometimes it's early pub too. So
Well, and sometimes like they'll do a random Prime Day reading where you can
Mhm.
just like, and it doesn't like it, you can just get it. It doesn't have to be one of those first reads or a prime read.
Yeah.
Like it, because there's a few authors that have shared it like that week or that month. Like one of their books is a prime read, so you can download it for free as long as you have Amazon Prime.
okay, so now we want to give you
Now.
some book recs. So first thing we're going to
Yeah.
go through is there are some popular titles that did really well in 2022. And we want to say, if you liked that book, then you should read this book. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So the first title is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And I'll be very honest, I did not read this book. Heather did not read this book.
It's
But-
a lot of book.
It's a small town romance
Mhm.
that single parent.
A single parent adjacent. It's her niece that she discovers when the book opens. He is a grumpy hero. She's not really sunshiny, so it's not a grumpy sunshine. It's kind of grumpy.
Okay, so what titles or authors do you think would go well with that? I think personally, if I had to pick somebody, I would go with Carrie Ann Ryan, her Wilder brothers.
I was thinking that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like those have a little bit more emotional angst than well, I guess Things We Never Got Over was kind of emotionally angsty at times, But yeah, so Carrie and Ryan's Wilder Brothers. Actually, her Montgomery Inc. series probably would work well too, because it's those family series. Like this is small town, but has that family dynamic with the way the small town works.
What
So
about
family
Ilsa Madden
series.
Mills, her Princess and the Player?
Beauty and the Baller and
Beauty
Princess
and the
and the Player
Baller.
would work for this one as well.
What
yes.
about the Miles family, the Claire Kingsley Miles family?
No, that's a little more. Those ones are like,
Emotional.
yeah. I don't think
Okay.
those ones
So
would
maybe
match
Avery
this one.
Flynn's
Hardigans.
Hardigan series.
Like Tomboy, those type of ones. Yeah.
Melissa Foster, or is that too?
No, Melissa doesn't really have those. This is more have the rom-com like element
Rom-com
to it,
feel.
and I don't feel like Melissa's books have that rom-com element at all.
Okay. Another really popular group of books were the Next Gen and Cloverleaf Farms from Melanie Harlow.
Mhm.
So Tempt, which was book 4, Taste, Ignite. I don't know what the other one was. I don't know.
Is there already 4? I thought it was only 3.
Yeah, there's 4. These are Next Gen, Small Town, Ignite. He's a firefighter, single dad. For me, I would say try Carrie Elks.
Tease.
What?
Tease was the other one.
So Ignite, Tease, Taste, and Tempt.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say try Carrie Ann Ryan again. Try Carrie Elks, Natasha Madison.
So I would say too. I mean, they have that the wedding series. That's
The
kind of
Southern
a
Wedding series,
family.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then one of her hockey series is kind of a family series too.
There's a bunch of authors writing Next Gen, but now that we're on, I can't think.
Oh, Marie Johnston's series.
Oh, Marie Johnson. Yeah. You know what? I think
her
that
Oil
you're
Baron
right.
series. Actually, her Oil King series would work well too. They're not second gens, but
there's that big family dynamic.
There's that
family
dynamic,
businessing
yes.
together.
Well, and also too, like, especially in the Oil Barons, there's like family upheavals. Like the family dynamic is not like the best family dynamic. And yeah, but it's a really good one.
So another really popular book is Consider Me by Becca Mack. I didn't love this book. It was really overwritten.
I haven't read this book because you didn't love this book.
It was like 600 pages, guys. It was angst and emotional and hockey romance. They are professional hockey, so this is not going to be new adult, although those characters were a little young. So my suggestion here would be Natasha Madison's Only series or her Something So series.
Mm-hmm.
Danica Flynn's Bulldog series.
Even Colleen Charles's hockey series would be similar to this. Like they're not as long.
What about
all.
Elise Faber's?
Elise Faber, she has 2 hockey series. Those ones are they're emotional.
That
like
series is long too. Brenda Rothert and Kent Mazira have that St. Louis Maverick series, and that is very emotional. Well written too, in my opinion.
Let's see here. I have read book 1 in this series, Melissa Iver's Nashville Devils series. I know lots of people really enjoy that, and it is in Kindle Unlimited. So, any others?
I mean, I like Stacey Lynn's Las Vegas Vipers series. I think.
Well, and she has the series that she wrote before this one too. The
Carolina
ones, yeah.
Samantha
Whiskey's Seattle Sharks or her Carolina
Reapers. Okay, another book that kind of took TikTok by storm and the charts by storm is Praise by Sarah Kate. This is a sex club age gap kink. Praise kink, daddy kink.
All the kinks. There's a lot of kinks.
But there was a lot of communication in this book, and there was a lot of intimacy in this book. I have not read the others in the series because I got halfway through the second one and it was just not for me. But I will say I love Stacey Kennedy. She has her Watch Me series and her Club Sin series. Those are great sex club books with kinks in them.
Katie Robichaux has a Club Alias sex club book. There's a 2-book duet that opens the world, and then she has a bunch of subsequent books from that. Those are very well written, very well done. Like the kinks and the dynamic of the BDSM club is exceptionally well done.
So Samantha A. Cole has a Trident Security, and
Yes,
they're former military, so they have like a private, like they have a sex club and they have like some romantic
it's
suspense.
Well, and Lexi Blake's Masters and Mercenary series, that has a BDSM element. It's suspense with the sex club backdrop.
So the Trident Security also has like where they're not apart. It's like it's just the BDSM club, and it's very well written.
Lauren Rowe has her club series, and then Eleanor Aldrich, she writes a darker age gap. She has 2 different series that I think that I'm aware of.
Yeah, Men of Wrath and the Trojan Crown. No, Trojan Crown I think is one of the books, but it's the Crown
series. They're darker, and they are age gap, and they are super sexy. And then Vanessa Vale, who we had the privilege of chatting with a week or so ago, that she writes steamy, sexy cowboys.
She has this Bridgewater series.
It's all thruples.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like historical Western thruples on top of that.
So In a Jam was a really big book for our community this year. Had a small town, children in the book, and was a bit of a slow burn. I personally would recommend Juliana Stone. She wrote The Family Simon, which has Kennedy family feels to it, and the Crystal Lake. There's like 6 different series within the Crystal Lake world. They're phenomenal. I also am a huge fan of Jackson Harbor by Lexi Ryan.
Oh, there's so many good books in that series.
So I have to be a person that throws in an MM, and Riley Hart it's a Briere County, and it's very good. It's this little I love it.
So I'm just going to list some authors because we gave you a lot of books, and then we'll go on. So some authors that were really popular this year were like Megan Quinn. She wrote rom-com. So if you liked those books, then you're going to look for rom-com. And if you go into her Amazon Kindle listing, you can actually look where her books have charted, and it will tell you all the top rom-coms. And that's an easy way to find other authors and other books that are popular that people are reading. I like Penelope Bloom. She writes a lot of rom-com that are as out there as Megan Quinn's. I just think they're better edited. Marnie Mann, she has had some popular books this year. She tends to write what we call PWP, porn without plot. Her stories are just there for the sex.
There's sometimes plot. It's very plot light.
If you want Mafia Rex, come see Heather. Sophie Lark, I know she was big this year. A lot of people loved her books.
Renee Rose.
There are so many great Mafia and dark romance authors out there that Sophie Lark's not the only one, people.
No, there's and we are we going to talk about, oh no, that's later. Never mind. We'll hold that thought.
Well, okay. So I have a whole list. We'll have it on the website. Because I want to get to the next part. So we did 17 trope talks in 2022. We covered close proximity, hockey romance, foodie romances, fake relationships, single parents raising siblings and guardians, grumpy sunshine versus the alpha hole, novellas, rock band, small town, book boyfriends and girl crushes, small town, slow burns, to medium heat, scoundrels, weddings, blue collar, shy and nerdy, and the unlikely protector. This is a great place to find some new to you authors and books to read, and those are all available full book TBRs on our on the shelf show notes.
Yeah. Also too, like any book that we've talked to, well, not any book, I'd say 95% of the books that we've talked about on the podcast, like ones that Becky and I have recommended, are on our Goodreads shelves as well. So that's always a good place to start.
Okay. If you like sports romances, who are some authors that people should try?
the Queen, Sawyer Bennett, but we talk about her all the time. So Emily Silver writes football romances. Tegan Hunter has a hockey rom-com series.
I like Kendall Ryan has a really great hockey romance series that I like.
And then Becky discovered Kaylee Ryan this year. She does baseball. Jay Sterling also has some baseball books.
We found Eden Dunn this year. She was formerly Pippa Green, but has changed their name, and they write hockey romance. Lorelai James has some hockey and MMA fighters in their really spicy family series. She also has lots of cowboy thruples. So if that's your gig, try Lorelai James. J.C. Burton, she has a series of books that cover multi-sports and like starts with football, it goes to baseball, there's hockey, race car driving. So, okay, if we like romantic suspense, who are some romantic suspense authors we should be trying?
So we have the regulars that I talk about all the time, but Desiree Holt is a really good one. Amanda McKinney, she's a little bit darker of a romantic suspense. We've talked about Maya Banks and Shayla Black and Anna Hackett, and of course, Susan Stoker and Riley Edwards. Emma Renshaw writes a really good romantic suspense. There's typically small town romantic suspense.
I would say
Kennedy
Rena
L.
Morgan
Mitchell.
falls onto Kennedy L. Mitchell.
Yeah, Rena is definitely a suspense.
Okay, so angsty and emotional romances. This is not something we talk a ton about on the podcast, but we're going to try in 2023.
We're going to try. Trying new things.
T.L. Swan tends to write angsty, bonker, emotional romances. Candy Steiner. Allie Martinez. Jillian Neal. Her books are pretty spicy and angsty.
A.L. Jackson writes a pretty angsty and emotional read. Trying to think.
I don't know. Okay, so the other thing that we don't talk a lot about on the podcast, but we're going to get better about, are darker romances. And we will make sure that we include content and trigger warning type things. But so we have a difference. There is what we call dark light.
Yeah. Which is like dark, but not super dark.
So think about that Bella Matthews book that we read, Heather.
Yeah.
That was mafia, but it wasn't dark.
That's what we like to refer to as dark light.
That's dark light. So Rena Morgan writes dark light. I would say Skye Warren's Dangerous Press would be dark light. Bella Matthews, Cal O'Reilly. It wasn't super violent. There was great character development in those books. And then Shane Rose, who wrote Shattered Vows and Fractured Freedom.
J.E. Parker has a mafia romance book that is dark light also. So.
You've read Renee Rose, though, Heather, right?
Yeah.
She's not dark light.
No, she's not.
She's dark.
For sure, her Chicago Bratva is not dark.
Well, and her Vegas one is pretty. They're pretty angsty, pretty dark. There's
so then
a decent amount of killing on page.
Dark ones. These are ones that we absolutely demand that you check content and trigger warnings.
Yeah.
So Michelle Hurd, Helen Hart, Penelope Skye, J.L. Beck, and anyone that she writes with. Serena Ackroyd, Malia Finelli, Chantel Tessier. She writes bully romances. I read a few.
With Renee Rose.
Renee Rose.
Marie James has a new series that is, Leah and I had talked about this series. It is very well done.
It is a little bonkers. Very dark.
The triggers.
Oh my God. There's a lot of triggers. But it's bonkers, but it's, and like that Heather and I said in the quick shot, it's by the end of it, we still didn't know if we liked the characters, but it's really well written.
So is there one or two authors that you hope that'll be new to you this year that you are ready to try?
Jodi Ellen Malpass, which is, I met her in Vegas. She's so very sweet. She's a mafia. She's mafia and has quite the following.
Yeah.
So I actually downloaded a Lainey adventure book. She does historicals, and I'm not a huge historical fan, but she's written in the Smarty Pants world, so I'm going to give her a try. I haven't read Emily Silver's books because I was waiting for this challenge. So she's going to be in 2023. I actually have a whole list of authors that I'm going to be trying out this year.
Yeah, I have a whole list of authors too. I'm going to try to be more thoughtful. My goal is to read more diversely this year. I did pretty good last year, but I can always do better. So I have a lot of
I slumped a lot last year, so I read an exceptionally large amount of suspense. So I'm going to try and read a little bit more variety of subgenres. That's my goal for the year.
I am already feeling myself going into a slump. So I have pulled myself back and I'm just rereading, and I'm reading MM because that makes me happy.
That makes you
It fills
happy.
your bucket. It fills your bucket.
Okay, so it's that time, everyone.
For a book. It feels so weird. I haven't done it in a couple weeks.
Like 3 episodes, we have not done Book of the Week.
I know. I don't like it.
Because I don't think we did Book of the Week during our hot take episode. We didn't do it during contributors.
We decided that they didn't need to know because we Festivisted the crap out of that episode.
And then the contributors, there were so many book recs in that one, and then our top reads. So this is it. First Book of the Week, 2023 version. Heather, what's your Book of the Week?
I started, it's called Cracks in the Ice. And it is written by a husband pair, Ryan Taylor and Joshua Harwood. It is a hockey romance with a hockey coach.
Ooh, the taboo.
Is it male?
So it is male. Forced proximity, by awakening. Yeah. So it's good so far. I'm loving it.
These are all Heather's things.
Yeah. Like check the boxes, right?
So my book of the week is Vow to Protect and Promises to Keep by J.L. Beck and Monica Corwin. This is mafia. This is dark. It's a little bonkers. There's a whole lot of sex in it. I would say it's dubious consent. It is violent. So please check your content and trigger warnings before downloading this book.
Apparently it's been the week because my book of the week is Mistakes Made by Marie James, which is what Heather and I were just talking about. It's book 2 in her Mercenary series that she has. So the hero kidnaps the heroine. That's like 90% of the book. There's this whole mutual masturbation game that they kind of play. It's like this role-playing type thing. It is a lot bonkers. I was 100% invested. It was very well done. But yes, if you have triggers, this book might not be for you, but it is exceptionally well done. I will say that the timeline is a little like off in a couple places and it kind of bugged me a little bit, but I really was invested in everything else. So I just moved on past that.
Okay. So Patreon update. Cool things are happening in our Patreon. First, thank you to all of you who support us over there on Patreon. We would not be able to bring you 3 episodes a week without the amazing community members we have. We have perks like Coffee of the Month Club, exclusive episodes, and Drunk Book Club, which is the best night of the month.
It is.
And if you are international in February, we are going to be day drinking for book club. And we are also bringing back the return in February of Galentine's Day.
But we're revamping because we were super drunk by the end of Galentine's Day last year.
Yeah, we're crafting together. Yeah. I'm so excited. We are going to make TBR jars together.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you would like to join in on our Galentine's Day festivities, just send us an email and we'll give you all the information. But Drunk Book Club is happening on January 14th, and we are reading one of Becky's favorites, Falling in Reverse by Miss Julia Wolf, and it is a rock star bodyguard romance. And we are very pleased to announce that Julia will be joining us for the evening. I'm excited because she is going to be a new to me author, and this has been actually on my Kindle for a while because Becky keeps raving about her books, and I have not read them yet.
Amazing rep in her books. Not only body rep, but character rep and mental health issues and sobriety issues. And they're just so dynamic. And she writes a really great stalker too. I'm just going to say.
Do like a good stalker.
And they're dirty talkers. These men, like Falling in Reverse, you guys, it's totally you touch her and die type vibes.
These are all things that I really, really like.
Yeah, I'm down.
It's so good. So good. So part of this episode is dedicated to our new reading challenge that we are kicking off this month here in 2023. It is the New to You Author Challenge, and it starts now.
It does.
It does right now.
I was agreeing with you. It does.
You must read at least 2 new to you authors each month to be entered into the monthly prize. And each additional new to you author you read will count as an additional entry. You must submit each new to you author you read to our form for entry to count. The form can be found on our website. Any new to you author read between January 1st of 2023 till March 31st of 2023 counts for an entry. And we have prizes. We have monthly prizes and then a grand prize. You can find a list of all of our upcoming dates, including book club, happy hours, plot a book, and reading challenge at bookcaseandcoffee.com/events. Anyway, Heather, thanks for joining us. I hope you don't slump.
No,
Yeah,
thank
don't
you.
slump. Slumps are
I hope not.
worse.
I feel like I just screenshotted a whole bunch of books. I feel like I might be good.
You might be okay.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Until next time, everyone.
Happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.